Welcome, advocates, to another episode of the Lead in Equity podcast, a podcast that focuses on supporting educators with the tools and resources necessary to ensure equity at their schools. Today's special guest is a big brother, buddy of mine, a good friend, someone that has helped me through a lot of personal situations, that has always been someone I can reach out to, and he reaches out to me as well. And we just catch up and see how things are going. So, a good friend of mine, Dr. Josue Falez, is here. So, without further ado, Josue, thank you so much for joining us today.
Man, what an entrance. Oh, thank you. Thank you. What an introduction. Oh, wow. Thank you, my brother. That's all I keep saying, my brother. That's it.
Yes, absolutely. You are spiritual guidance. You are. I definitely consider you a brother. So I definitely appreciate you being on this stage, if you will, with us. And so we're going to chop it up on learning from other cultures. Now, this is not just a culture responsive type of conversation. It's going to be beyond that, and we're going to really dig into what it's, I guess, the importance of learning from other communities. But before we get into that, I'd love for you to share a little bit about yourself and what you currently do.
Sure. I'm the founder and CEO of Gomo Educational Services and Gomo Travel Services. This is a culmination of just under 30 years of experience in education, from teaching to principalship to assistant superintendency, and then finally higher ed, which involves some just global travel experiences and educational experiences. So it's all culminated to this.
All right. Well, welcome back. You've been on the show before as well, and you're just leaving ISTE. And tell us a little bit about that experience. I wasn't able to make it yet. I still haven't made it to ISTE. That's on my that's on my list of things to do. Well, I always get FOMO every time I see all the social media. But tell us a little bit about your experience.
So this was transformative because in the beginning of my keynote, I actually provided a keynote to people through the Our Voice Alliance. I've been an ISTE member since 2013, and one of my dreams, I presented at ISTE before, just like a session, which had a whole lot of people, but it was always to get some sort of main stage keynoting. And it did happen last week. I presented on the power of names, where we've talked about it on this show before, how I had my name changed for me by educators and family friends. And I go into just the impact, both negative, but also transformative, to be empowered and I took my name back, and then encourage other people who have cultural appropriation or acculturation to feel that they have to lose their names so that they can feel like they value and belong, but then take it back and become empowered. So regardless of where you're at, your name is your name 100% of the time.
Love it. Love it. Again, you sent me some clips, so I had a chance to virtually see it, and just proud moment to watch you. I knew that was a dream of yours. And again, you and I have known each other for, I don't know, 5-6 years, maybe longer than that. Yeah. And just seeing you make that dream happen. I'm coming up next. I'll be there someday. I'll be there someday. I got a book through ISTE, ASCD, so maybe that'll be an incentive for them to invite me out to speak one of these days. And also I was a member, I'm a member of Our Voice Alliance as well. So who knows? One of those things might factor in. So
what's your cohort again? Because
I was the one before you. I want to say I was three. Cohort 3. I think you're 4, right?
I'm 4. That's yep.
Okay. Yeah. All right, let's get into it, because I know, again, you and I get together. We just together recording. So let's get into today's topic, learning about different communities. And I just remember when I was in college, study abroad opportunities were out there. So I had a lot of colleagues that went over to Spain and learned Spanish, or went over to other countries and learned in Korea and other places and studied education, what it looks like there. And they came back. They always come back with a lot of valuable information, lessons learned, and things like that. I have my own experience teaching overseas in the Virgin Islands. Even though it's part of the United States, it still was an area that I was unfamiliar with. Spent 2 years there and learned a lot about the community. And it really set a foundation for what cultural responsiveness was or is. However, I always tell folks, we don't want to limit that to just, I'm culturally responsive because I learned about another community. I know it's beyond that. And I want to start with asking you, why is it so important for us to take the time to learn about various communities and cultures as educators?
Number one is there's this promulgation about preparing global Students for the global world, global society. Now that you can go online, or you've been able to go online for so long and see different parts of the world, even through just Google Earth, which you've been using probably over 20 something years, and seeing different cultures. There's a lot of people that now, or organizations, who've been partnering with like pen pals across the country, across the world, to actually physically go there and experience the culture is something that it's priceless. You can't put a dime or any type of amount of money on it. So what better way to say that than then to actually go somewhere and experience it? And more than just like a day you visit. Let's say you go on a cruise and you get to stop there for several hours and get back on your ship and then go to the next stop. This is actually fully immersing yourself in the culture, dealing with natives, and see, some of the highlights that you get to see, probably some sort of commercials, but also some of the challenge where you're like, you know what? I didn't know that. And that actually helps you get a greater value for those other cultures and things that they go through.
Yeah. And I would say when you get specific as far as where you're going to learn from different communities, it also, I would imagine it takes away a lot of assumptions, or maybe even myths that you may have had about various countries or communities, because maybe you saw stuff on TV and news, whatever, did your own little research, but maybe that's kind of like a tourist version of that research and not the true authentic experience. And so that would be my take on it as well. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I totally agree. And this actually, you're bringing me straight to the point. You're looking to dispel things about other cultures, but even more so people that maybe the media may put out there. And it's like watching a movie. Like maybe someone may have certain biases and they only present to you certain parts of the movie. So when you actually go check the movie out, you're like, I actually liked it. But what were they talking about? On one hand, it could be their experiences that allow them to be that biased about certain things and not accept and receive it. And then certain things about you, like, you know what? I have this, I like this. But experience it for yourself allows you to bring back one much more rich experience, but also to bring it back to help other people know, to see more of a well-rounded picture of the whole thing in totality.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. Well, let's get into it, because you have your own experience learning as well, firsthand experience learning from another community. And I want you to share a little bit about your experience in Africa and talk to us about what your experience was or is, and some of the things that, if those who are listening out there or even watching this, could kind of pull from.
So let me bring, I guess, my experiences just with global education first, and then bring it straight to Gambia. As a teacher, my wife and I would take vacations, and I always made each vacation a learning experience. So yes, it's local. It's in the considered part of the United States, but Alaska. I was an environmental science teacher, and we would be on the glaciers. And when I was teaching on biomes, went to Costa Rica, again, more deeper about biomes in the rainforest, doing push-ups on the glaciers and drinking the water. Went to Spain, and we're seeing the aqueducts that were created by the ancient Spaniards, and talking about how the water ran. So it's like a lot of things that not only did I go see those things, I actually brought it back to learning, like back to the classroom, so students actually saw me. This got me to this point where I had this opportunity to go to the Gambia on 2 occasions so far, last year in 2024 and this year again in 2025. And going to be going back in December of 2025 also. There was this opportunity to give back to the Gambian educators, even though I had never physically been there. One of the Gomo consultants, or Gomo family members, who is Gambian, his name is Al Hassan Suso, for about 5 years, had constantly kept asking me or telling me that you need to go to Gambia. When you going to go to Gambia? You need to go to the Gambia. When you going to go to Gambia? And like probably a lot of people, I always kept saying, yeah, soon, maybe soon, maybe soon. And then we had an opportunity in 2023 where there was a benefactor who wanted to give books or some sort of resources to every single child in the entire country from kindergarten to 4th grade. So we had this meeting in New York, and that gave us like that green light that this is going to take place, and it was going to be this huge thing as far as this through the Ministry of Education, basic and secondary education. And because of that, we're like, we're going to have to do this now. And that was like my hook and anchor, like now I have to go because I'm part of this meeting. And we planned everything within 1 year. It was January 2023, and we took 28 people to the Gambia to be able to experience this, not just the occasion of this donation, this philanthropic donation, but then it was also an opportunity where Hassan had a dream of creating a teaching academy because at the time I did not know all what the country may lack as far as an education. So it was now a vehicle or an idea to turn into a vehicle to be able to uplift educators in the Gambia. And that's what we took our first cohort of people to go in 2024. And oh my goodness, was an amazing trip. Again, 28 people from the US, like it was a US delegation. And we were guests of the Ministry of Education, the government. We went with the US ambassador to learn even more things, why we're there, how we're looking to make this change. The biggest thing that I want to make clear from now and will continue is we were not looking to be saviors. This is not it. It was a learning opportunity on both ends, but it's also how to support, but also contribute, because there are lacking certain resources regardless, but still, as I guess we continue to talk about this, despite it, they still strive. Despite.
Thank you for sharing, and I'm glad you honed in on this wasn't a savior missionary type of event, because when you initially said, well, we had a benefactor and we recognized that they wanted to donate books from K to 4, some people's minds would say, oh, okay, here we go, they needed books, and so we were going over there and deliver these books. What was the purpose behind the donation, and how were those books, or what was the plan, I guess, for those books to be utilized?
So there's a huge disparity in distribution of resources in the Gambia. Obviously, the city area receives the most amount of funding, whereas the rural areas may not have as much resources. And I say this because the proximity in more of the city areas, they can actually get to school. In some of the rural areas, it's a long walk, long drive. They don't have vehicles. Sometimes the students choose not to go to school. And there's a couple of other reasons why they may not go to. And then when you get to school, like one of the areas I was going to talk about is resources. And in the rural areas, the disparity is like there are certain classrooms that there are no seats. The children sit on the floor, no matter how many there are. And even the size of the education institution varies. How the structure of the institution varies. So there's just that disparity, whereas there may be more of a full brick and mortar in the city. There's a difference in the rural areas.
Okay. So the purpose of the books were they going to be implemented into the lesson? Okay.
Help bridge. So it's like not only the books, but also curriculum that went with it. So that way it helps bridge a uniform distributing the same resources to all of the children, kindergarten through or pre-K to 4th grade.
Okay, great. So this is interesting because, again, we started with, it's important to learn about various countries, communities, and things like that. And I could hear some of my listeners, we're just going to say best intentions, but bias might start to creep up. It was like, well, lack of resources, they needed books, they needed this, they needed that, they don't have places to sit. What can I learn from this community in regards to maybe teaching practices, in regards to relationship building with students, or like what out there, what can I take or learn from this type of a community that lacks so many different resources? So I want to throw that over to you, Josue, because I want to make sure that we have a clear understanding as far as the value in these type of experiences.
So let me first of all go into things about the Gambia first. And I guess despite the lack, English is the #1 language it's official in education as well as the politics. The highest or most spoken language is called Mandinga. Now, for those who've watched Roots, the either you read the book or you watched the movie, Kunta Kinte, which was the most impertinent enslaved person in that story, they were trying to rename Toby is to Kunta Kinte, and he is Gambian. So one of the locations in the Gambia is called the Kunta Kinte Island, where you got to see where the transatlantic slave trade took place. The next spoken language after Mandinga is called Fula, where 18% of the people, again, 42% speak Mandinga, 18 speak Fulu, and then the next highest language is called Wolof, and Wolof is 16%, and then that's also spoken in the second most spoken language in Senegal, whereas French is the highest in Senegal due to the colonization. So let's go into more statistics, and then I'll get into it. So 85% of schools, because now you're wondering, like, why do you need help?
Right.
85% of schools do not have computers or access to the internet. And these are UNESCO statistics. So 85% do not have computers or access to the internet. 38% of schools have no basic hand washing facilities. 44% of schools have no electricity. 42% of schools have no library. And as you speak to even educators on the ground, they'll say they need things like school supplies, uniforms, female hygiene products, science, bicycles, and science lab and equipment. And I mention this because we visited about 10 schools last year. I'm gonna just give you that background. And despite these statistics that I just gave you, to see some of these schools outperforming things that we do in the US, I'm talking far outperform. They're utilizing everyday items and just being so innovative and creative and not making any excuse. Now they're saying, hey, if you can get us a computer or a laptop, that would help out great, because what we're doing, we can now do better. If you give us some metal shop equipment, we can now do certain things. And it's just like too hard to even furnish things with the wood and wood shop or metal shop. When I say I am amazed, like this one school, Charles John Memorial Academy, that we've partnered with, there's 3,000 students between middle school to high school. And they're with no physics really lab. And I'm talking, I saw all their equipment, biology lab, the tech lab. They're actually performing in national competitions and winning.
Wow.
Winning. And I'm like, how? They're like, we're not making an excuse. And I say to them, if you had what we have, we couldn't even compare. Absolutely not. So the main thing is, if we can help enhance the perception of these allegedly people that are in need and lacking resources, and even just give them something, it's not that they don't need it. Just like, look, if we could do a little more, we can now take one, bring it even better, but also be able to help more people that do not have.
Yeah, I love this.
So that's how I look at it from a perspective of support, not just always just giving, but support, but also this negative perception as far as like a whole continent of people that are deficient. We get to dispel that by physically going there and seeing you. We're thinking they're deficient. Oh, no. In some cases, we might be the ones that are receive so much and have so much that we're making excuses when things don't work out our way. They're like, no, we're just going to do it regardless.
Yeah. Well, let's do this. Thank you. You're right.
I hope I answered that and more.
you are absolutely right, and more. And I want to get a little bit more specific, because as I'm thinking, as far as little stuff, like, what did you notice? You say you visited about 10 schools. What did you notice as far as like the relationship dynamics between teachers and students? What did you notice as far as maybe some rituals, such as maybe daily practices or morning or afternoon type of things, the way they connected with kids, how do they present their lessons to students? Like, what were some of the things that you saw that maybe kind of stood out to you?
Because it was only a couple of days and visiting so many schools, I didn't get to that nitty gritty, but I do have some like high level things as far as like expectations. So I'm going to talk about expectations, testing, resources, and then financial resources. Just the expectations for everyone is, regardless of what school we went to, you're going to succeed and we're going to help you, like at all costs. And as a result, every single school that we visited, I saw that all the children were like bright-eyed. And again, all the ones that we visited, I went and even asked about, like, certain rooms have 100 students, 150 students. How are you all learning? Isn't there some sort of behavioral challenge and bullying? And they were like, what? Like, no one out of all those schools understood what bullying was. Not one. What is that? That's when someone makes fun of another. Like, they operated under the term of Ubuntu. That is, I am because we are. So if I am doing well, then I'm going to make sure that we're all doing well. That's that premise they all operated for every single school. And that's something, it was not individualistic. It is a community. I'm going up, I'm rising up, and I'm taking you with me.
I love
that's
it.
That's the number one presence, the expectations. Testing, and I've been to China, and it's not trying to divert it, but then we know if those who have visited or done some work about China notice that once after 8th grade, people have to pay for schooling, and then therefore they have to perform well in their like 8th grade exam to be able to go to high school, and then same thing with college. And that's why a lot of them do come to the US because of finances, and they can get free schooling. But the testing is big because in the US, and I'm showing the differences, we have state testing and as by different levels, meaning grades 4, 5, then 8, and then 11. Depending on each state, there's different measures. In the Gambia, they operate under the West African standard of testing. By the end of 8th grade, you have to perform so well. If not, or excuse me, high school, if you don't perform well enough, you're going to go to potentially, what is it, community college, which it's like you have to get A or B. If you're not getting A or B, which is the highest, then you're basically a layman. You're just working regular jobs and odd things to get to, because school is so strict to perform. Yes, it is one thing behavior, but it's more like let's all do our best in everything, and that's all that standard is, and basically A or B. Then this leads us into, so in the U.S., let's say you don't perform well, you get back into the cusp. That's the students. What can we do to be able to kind of intervene each year and take them and move in different groups? It's like, no, you all have to perform. Whatever we do, we got to be able to support it, guide it. Again, they're doing that in the Gambia also, but it's more like the best of the best actually go on to that next level. And again, everyone still has different cognitive abilities. So that takes that part. Then these are to the financial resources. Students have to pay for schooling in most of the areas, meaning the parents have to come out of pocket. So if the parents cannot, that's another challenge. And when I went to northern part of Gambia, right under Senegal this past year, I did visit some rural areas. Now, this may be where some people are like, what's going on? Because the children, in some cases, if the parents can't pay, the children are working to be able to go to school, meaning they're doing what people may consider panhandling, asking and begging and working so that they can physically pay for the teachers. And those are the students or children who the parents were not able to pay for. So let's say you have 7 kids. For the 2, 3 children that you're able to pay for, you cover that. But for the remaining children, they got to work to be able to pay their way and pay the educators in some cases themselves. So when we see children out there begging, in some cases, they are actually trying to pay their education. So to me, this is another perception that they're just looking to beg. No, some of them are actually just trying to cover their own spot education or food for the day. Again, leaving no misconceptions as far as like them not making excuses. They're doing it even as young as 4, 5, 6 years old. They're out there working their parts to cover their education for themselves. And then last, I actually talked about it first already with the resources, but the resources I've already spoken at the very first part. Again, it's just what they have. They're making no excuses to be able just to have it. So those were my high level things.
Thank you. Yeah, it sounds like education is very important to the country of Gambia, and that's one of the biggest takeaways that I'm hearing so far in your experience. Let's transition because.
So let me go one more part before you go also. Yeah. So I talked about financial resources for the Gambia, but like in the US, we have taxpayer dollars that goes into pay for tuition and pay school systems and cover that. And again, to me is when you really look at it, and we're a very fortunate space in the US to be able to do that, whereas other countries, they don't have that. And as a result, we may take that. No, I know we take that for granted. So I'm gonna end off there.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I'm excited about, and you touched on Kunta Kinte, and I had the opportunity during COVID to swipe my DNA and send it off to African Ancestry. I'm not sponsored, but I do want to highlight AfricanAncestry.com. That's what I use for my maternal side. I did the DNA swab, sent it off 12 weeks later. I received my information, my genealogy, and found out that my mother's side of the family comes from West Africa, Senegal being one of those areas. But Mandinka is the Gambia area is where I'm from. And I was excited to learn, as I did my research and learn about the Mandinka tribe, I learned that I am lineage of Kunta Kinte and his folks. So that was a big discovery for me. So I do want to highlight that. So one of these days, I do want to make my way out to Gambia. And you told me that you are offering an experience. And so that was really exciting for me because, again, I trace back my roots and I want to go down there and find out a little bit more. Again, obviously, yes, I want to learn about the education system, but I also want to learn where I come from. And so it's a big deal for me. So I want to give you an opportunity to share about this experience that you shared with me and what you have coming up.
Sure. So because of what we've done in the Gambia over the past 2 years, it has allowed us for people to see, one, according to the Global Peace Index, it describes Gambia as the safest country in all of Africa. So there's this perception that which almost the whole entire continent is not safe. So we're dispelling that. I've traveled day, night, no matter who I'm with throughout the country, you'll see the most humbling people that are willing to receive you and everything that you bring. Second is the education that we've been highlighting, that people can see throughout the entire country, that people are just looking to do their very best. And this now bore something as far as like a vehicle to allow other people to experience it beyond just like our cohorts that we've been doing, just asking people to come. So that is what created the Gomo travel services, for people to see three things. One, explore. Two, engage. And three, exchange. You're going to go to explore the history of the Gambia. Many different things, as far as we talked about the Kunta Kinte Island and many different things. Two, engage with the people so we can dispel and continue to dispel things about the people, the safety, just almost like any other Black country, African country. And then three is the exchange of cultural traditions, because we have people coming from North Carolina, LA, Atlanta. Just within the US, there's different cultures that are experienced based on where you're at. Now, once we all go to the Gambia, yes, we're considered all US, but then we bring different traditions and cultures there, and we're now going to be able to exchange it while we're there in the Gambia. So between December 23rd, 2025 to December 31st, 2025, 8 days, eight nights, individuals that are going to be participating in this edutourism experience will get to see the touristy part, but also leave with the educational part, so we can actually address the exploration, the engagement, as well as the exchanging of traditions.
I love this. I love this. And just so I'm clear, and so we're clear, those who are listening and watching this, you said that it's the safest country in Africa, and I would imagine you and I would blend in, and so we probably will feel safe. But for those who don't look like us, can you explain how is it still safe for them as well?
Yes. So one thing I've noticed while I was there is there's a lot of Europeans that know about the Gambia, whereas to me, the US does not. And mostly all the Europeans are Europeans. And it is entirely safe. The country is totally safe, regardless of what your skin tone may be.
I love that. And then you said that there's a opportunity to exchange. So I want to break that down a little bit more. So those who would like to sign up for this experience, they would need to bring some sort of exchange or some information. Can you share a little bit more about that?
True. No, thank you for asking that question. So because this is an edutourism experience, we actually have a professional development day while in the Gambia, working with a couple of an educational organization about female empowerment. I was trying to keep it somewhat of a secret so they can actually find out. Let me let a little bit. Okay. So we partner with an organization about female empowerment, and we've partnered with a school that there is a professional development day for those who are going automatically get to present. The topic for this year in December will be AI in teaching and learning. So just being a person that comes, you don't have to apply. You are automatically there. Like, we even had an attorney, and she's going to talk about how being an attorney, how the AI is utilized, and that can help some of maybe these rising or aspiring attorneys in the Gambia, and how AI is utilizing that to be able to help her in her practice and just growing. I'm going to be doing a session on how to lead with AI. So it's many different opportunities. And this is something that they decided. So again, we're talking about not coming to tell them. So this was a requested by them, where we said, with this partnership, what would you like for us to be able to bring to you? And this was their idea. So we're just so excited that we can be able to help contribute. And again, this is Xchange. What are you in the US doing about AI and teaching and learning? Various different aspects, and it's the same thing. We do even have like a content creator that's coming, and he's going to be talking about things with how he utilized AI with his content creation. So for those who are going to be the future media moguls, what they're looking to do. So that's another thing that we're going to be able to help. And this is just so exciting. I don't know what the topic is going to be for next year, but we do have the dates for next year, because a number of people have stated that just due to logistics and the timing, they could not go this year. So we already have a waiting list for next year. Like, I'm so excited already. It didn't even start yet, but I already have a pretty large group. They're just like, I need 1 year. Give me 1 year to plan, and we're ready to go. But this year we're again, December 23rd, 2025 to December 31st, 2025, 8 days, 8 nights. Gomo Travel Services, it's on, and we want you.
And so I would imagine space might be limited. Is there any
This year.
deadlines that we need to be aware of
Yeah.
as well?
Yes, this year it is limited. I think I may have only 2 more spots remaining, maybe 3. I can stretch it to 3 or 4. But the final date to pay is September 15, 2025 for the last 2 or 3 or 4 slots. I can kind of stretch it, but that's just this year. Next year, the numbers can be pretty much open. I will be posting that probably around late November, early December, because I just don't want to conflict with this trip and next year's trip.
Right. That makes sense. And folks, links in the show notes. So make sure that you grab that link and follow Gomo Travels and get more information in regards to the experience, how to sign up, everything, that all the details are there. Josue, it's always a pleasure meeting with you, talking to you, whether recording it or when we have our conversations that you and I just chop it up about. I always learn something from you. And so I want to have you take us home with any final words of advice that you want to provide to our listeners out there.
While we're talking about the misconceptions or perceptions about just sometimes even people, there is that big one just about the continent of Africa. Again, for those who don't even know the Gambia, what about the Gambia? It is a very rich, resourced location. And again, the people make no excuse. And if they don't, how and why do we? So let's take that home. Let's start doing things and doing it right, because there are people out there, if they had what we have, they will make no excuses. So let's do it. Gomo Travel Services.
I love it. And so if we have some folks that want to connect, what's the best way to reach you online?
Different ways, through my actual name, Josue Falaise. That's on Twitter or X, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Gomo EDS, that is on Instagram and Facebook and then LinkedIn, and everything is Gomo at Gomo Trav S, GOMOTRAVS, and then the website Gomo Ed Services or Gomo Trav Services, well, with s.com.
All right, there it is. Again, links in the show notes. Josue, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.